life. Life's full of two different things, and one of them is things you've done before. So this morning, I walked down Queensferry Road. Well, I walked down the pavement, to be more exactly, and I've done that probably, 200 times before. So I didn't need to think about it too much, apart from when crossing the road, obviously. I was kind of like in a bit of my usual dream world. I didn't need to think it through. Oh, how do I get to church this morning? Because I've done it time and time and time again. Same reason when you had your breakfast this morning and you're looking for the Weetabix, you knew which cupboard they'd be in. But life's not always like that, because sometimes life throws upon us a new experience. Most of all when we're just tiny babies and everything is new. And we're looking at this thing over here and thinking, does that belong to me? And we put our little booted foot in the air and think, does that belong to me as well? And we kind of get to know things little bit by little bit. But actually, the whole of life is full of new experiences if we stop to think about it. Throughout our whole lives. But how should we react when something new comes along that we've not experienced before? What are we supposed to do? Maybe the disciples were thinking the same thing. And looking back, how have we actually reacted? It's a different thing to say this is how we should react, but how have we actually done it when we look back with hindsight? And why is it we so dislike those things we can't grasp or understand? Why do we feel the need to understand everything? To know what's actually going on all the time? I guess it's so we can weigh it up somehow and see whether it's important to us or otherwise. And again, in our story, I reckon there must have been a lot of that going through their minds. Is what's happening today with these strange voices important or not? Does it change anything significant? Or is it unimportant and actually distracting me from what really is truly important? Would it be for the best if I just put my head in the sand and ignored it? Is it going to be long-lasting? Is it going to be going on forever? Or is it just something temporary which will be gone by tomorrow? And what level of life does it most affect? From individuals, to groups, to communities, to countries? Where's the main impact of what I've heard or seen this morning? They must have been thinking to themselves. We had one very good holiday in the Peak District and went to Matlock. Maybe some of you will know it. And there's a museum there where there's a really canny machine. It's got a big dial on the side from what I can remember. It's a long time ago now. And if you twisted it one way, it zoomed in like a microscope. And the more you turned it, the more it zoomed in. It zoomed in more and more and more and more, till you got right down to little molecules and atoms bobbling around. And then you could turn it the other way and keep on turning it past kind of normal size, right up to looking at the planet Earth from space. And you can see it's all on the one machine. And so it's like that. It's, what level does this events with all the strange tongues speaking, at what level is it going to affect life? Are there possibly several different interpretations of what's going on? If so, what would we need to know to choose between them to work out which one is the most plausible, which one speaks to us, which one seems to resonate true? And as I say, what information do I need to make that distinction? Should it worry me? Should it concern me? Or, on the other hand, will it help me or will it help other people? What's going on? And here's one. What is it about this new experience that makes me feel the way that I do? For example, that makes me feel encouraged or envisioned, happy, afraid, confused, depressed, lonely, sad, and so on. The emotions I'm feeling when this new experience happens to me, what is it about them that's making me feel that way? I'm a bit of a blubber. When I watch a happy ending to a film, I'm always a bit like this. The one that really gets me, I don't know whether you've seen it, is Apollo 13, the space mission one, where they go off into space and everything goes wrong. I mean, everything goes wrong. And they're stuck thinking, we're not going to get back to Earth here. And through a series of cleverness and luck and all sorts of other things, and stickiness really, they actually get back safe. And just before they get back safe, you see a bunch of people listening for some kind of radio broadcast from the ship that was safe. And you see the son of one of the people there, and you see people just gathered round in someone's lounge, and they're all waiting for this word to come through. And I'm like this, I'm going to tell you. And I've seen the film, I don't know how many times. I know exactly what's going to happen. I must have seen it 20 times. But it's still, these emotions kind of well up in you. And I wonder what emotions were welling up in the first believers when we heard our story this morning. They must have been thinking, what is going on here? And here's the thing. You know, I said at the start, sometimes there's things that are a new experience that we haven't had happen to us before, we haven't seen, we haven't heard. I wonder if that's always true. I wonder if sometimes we just haven't delved back in our memories enough to think about, because there's very few things actually that are completely new, certainly when you get to my age. Now, I'm nearly 45 years old now, so I've had quite a lot of things happen to me over the, There's very little things that are absolutely new. There should be something about them, some kind of shirt tail that I can grab onto that at least gives me some meaning. Yeah? You might go somewhere new on holiday, but you've been on holiday before, probably. And you may have read about that place, and you may have seen about it on telly and so on. So there's things you can grab onto to give you at least a few things to climb up to understanding. But all these things I've said so far could apply to anything in our secular lives. As a Christian, we're also concerned with the spiritual dimension and, if you like, things of the faith. So you might ask yourself a slightly different set of questions as a Christian. What's going on? Okay? How does what's going on tell me a bit more about myself? What it is to be human? What it is to be me? What it is to be a Christian in this life here? What's it tell me about God? What's it tell me about Jesus and the Holy Spirit? What's it tell me about other people? What does it tell me about my community, my country, my world? And what does it tell me about the relationships between all those different groups? So between me and God, between Jesus and God, between me and my neighbour and so on. What does what's going on tell me about that? How can I learn from the experience to understand those things better? All our relationships could do with a little bit more love and therefore a little bit more of God. And then that's at a general level. What about me? How does it affect my life, my church, my community? How might it impact upon my faith, either negatively or positively? We might like to delve even a little bit deeper. This issue is a little bit like peeling an onion. I don't know whether you peel a lot of onions, but as you peel back each layer, you get to a better level of understanding. How can what's happening to me, they might have said to themselves, how can it be used to further God's kingdom here on earth? Something really, really positive and important and significant. But on the other hand, what dangers or temptations might be present? Might it make me overlook something or be too proud or puffed up in myself and so on? what can be positive and what can be negative. So here we are with our Bible reading in this context. The events of the day happen, the hearing of voices in people's own tongues, and the people react. We're told that the people react in two ways. I suspect there may have been many more, but the two that are picked out are they are amazed. So, putting it another way, well, I wasn't expecting that to happen. Amazed. But also confused. What's going on? How is that even possible? Amazed and confused. Peter says, let me tell you, it's not that they're drunk. It's to fulfill a very important prophecy from a prophet called Joel, which was made a long, long time before. Joel talked about a time when the Spirit would flow into people and they would speak out messages from and about God, and they would see visions, and they would dream dreams. So, a fulfillment of a prophecy is about telling us that this is part of God's great plan. And now is the time that God has chosen for this part of his plan to come together. Now, I know in the pre-COVID days, when we were having our coffee mornings, we used to have a table that sometimes had jigsaw puzzles on it, and maybe quite a lot of us enjoy doing those, swapping them round. I don't know how you do them. We always start by doing the outside. And if we can't do the outside, well, we basically give up because we're useless at doing them. And then we try and get the easy bits that have got words on and faces and things that you can spot easily. And we leave to last the really difficult bits where it's all the same colour of sea or sky. And sometimes, in order to understand God's plan, we have to do things in a certain order. To understand things in a certain order, we have to build the foundations before we can start building higher levels. And sometimes we have to trust God for those bits that haven't been revealed yet. Back in the day when I lived on the outskirts of London, I bought a flat. But it wasn't built yet, which is kind of funny things that go on in London. You buy things that haven't yet been built. In fact, it was about ankle high, I think, and I was buying a second floor flat. And that requires quite a lot of trust. Yeah? You think, I hope they build it with my money. But all I had was a plan. They show you the plan and say, this is what it'll look like. And you just have to take it on trust. And sometimes God will reveal his plan to us bit by bit and say, this is all your mind and soul and so on can cope with at this stage. I'll move you on to the next stage when it's the right time. And God had chosen that this was the right time for Joel's prophecy of the coming of the Spirit on the people to be fulfilled. Well, my conclusion is this. The best way to react to anything new, to anything that we suspect might be part of God's plan, that God has now chosen to be fulfilled. 1, fully embrace it. We can't respond to God's promptings by putting our head in the sand, or we'll never get to hear what he has to say to us. We'll never get to travel those paths that he's set out for us. So fully embrace it, which means help it, don't hinder it. There's really no fence to sit on. Everything we do during the day, we're either helping God's plan or we're hindering it. Or as some people say, casting light or casting a shadow. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't like, when I finally get a bit older and my time comes, I don't want people to say that Brian, wherever he went, he cast a dark shadow. I wouldn't like that. I don't think you'd like that either. If you said, he shone a bit of light sometimes, here and there, that would be quite nice. So let's help God's work, not hinder it. Let's shine a light and not a shadow. And let's trust in God. Because, every time we're afraid, it just shows we don't trust him, really, when it comes down to it. God said, in all things that are important, I will look after you. Doesn't mean to say nothing will ever go wrong. We'll still stub our toe and we'll still get ill and so on. But God's alongside us in the pain and the difficulty. So we don't need to be afraid because we're never really, truly alone. So enjoy the experience and allow it to grow our faith wherever possible. So this summer, let's each of us have our eyes and ears open to any new experiences God might choose to direct towards us. Let's do all we can to fully understand them and to grow from them. And to God be the glory. Amen.